Hello, everybody. This is Keya from Wicked Majesty, and you are listening to Tea and Terror Podcast, the show that entertains with true and fictional stories from beyond the grave for people who love horror. Good evening, everyone. Tonight I will continue reading The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. If you are just joining in for the story and you're feeling lost within the narration, my suggestion would be to listen to the previous episodes. That way you'll be up to date with the story. If you make it through the entire episode and you like what you heard tonight and you're listening to the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, or SoundCloud, then please share the Tea and Terror podcast with others and add it to your playlist. If you are listening from my Wicked Majesty YouTube channel, please hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you all so much. Now on with the story. I know a little of the principle of design, and I know this thing was not arranged on any laws of radiation or alternation or repetition or symmetry or anything else that I've ever heard of. It is repeated, of course, by breadth, but not otherwise. Looked at in one way, each breadth stands alone. The bloated curves and flourishes, a kind of debased romantic with delirium tremens, go waddling up and down in isolated columns of fatuity. But on the other hand, they connect diagonally, and the sprawling outlines run off in great slanting waves of optic horror, like a lot of walling seaweeds in full chase. The whole thing goes horizontally, too. At least it seems so. I exhaust myself in trying to distinguish the order of its going in that direction. They have used a horizontal breadth for a frieze, and that adds wonderfully to confusion. There is one end of the room where it is almost intact, and there, when the crosslight fades and the low sun shines directly upon it, I can almost fancy radiation after all, in the interminable grotesque seam to form around the common center and rush off in the headlong plunges of equal distraction. It makes me tired to follow it. I will take a nap, I guess. I don't know why I should write this. I don't want to. I don't want to feel able. And I know John would think it's absurd. But I must say, what I feel and what I think in some way is such a relief. But the effort is getting to be greater than the relief. Half the time now, I am awfully lazy and lie down ever so much. John says I mustn't lose my strength and has me take cod liver oil and lots of tonics and things, to say nothing of ale and wine and rare meat. Dear John, he loves me very dearly and hates to have me sick. I tried to have a real earnest reasonable talk with him the other day and tell him how I wish he would let me go and make a visit to Cousin Henry and Julia. But he said I wasn't able to go, nor able to stand it after I got there. And I didn't make out a very good case for myself, for I was crying before I had finished. It is getting to be a great effort for me to think straight. Just this nervous weakness, I suppose. And dear John gathered me up in his arms and just carried me upstairs and laid me on the bed and sat beside me and read to me till it tired my head. He said I was his darling, and he comfort and all he had, and that I must take care of myself for his sake and keep well. He says no one but myself can help me out of it, and that I must use my will and self-control and not let any silly fancies run away with me. There's one comfort. The baby is well and happy and doesn't have to occupy this nursery with a horrid wallpaper. If we had used it, that blessed child would have. What a fortunate escape. Why, I wouldn't have a child of mine, any impressionable little thing, live in such a room of four worlds. I never thought of it before. But it is lucky that John kept me here, after all. I can stand it so much easier than a baby, you see. Of course, I never mention it to them anymore. I am too wise, but I keep watch of it all the same. There are things in that paper that nobody knows but me, or ever will. Behind that outside pattern, the dim shapes get clearer every day. It is always the same shape, only very numerous, and it is like a woman stooping down and creeping about behind that pattern. I don't like it a bit. I begin to think. I wish John would take me away from here. It is so hard to talk with John about my case, because he is so wise and because he loves me so. But I tried it last night. It was moonlight. The moon shine in all around, just as the sun does. I hate to see it sometimes. It creeps slowly, and always comes in by one window or another. John was asleep, and I hated to wake him, so I kept still and watched the moonlight on the undulating wallpaper till I felt creep. The faint figure behind seemed to shake the pattern, just as if she wanted to get out. I got up softly and went to feel and see if the paper did move, and when I came back, John was awake. "What is it, little girl?" he said. "Don't go walking about like that. You'll get cold." I thought it was a good time to talk, so I told him that I really was not gaining here, and that I wished he would take me away. "Why, darling?" he said. "Our lease will be up in 3 weeks, and I can't see how to leave. The repairs are not done at home, and I cannot possibly leave town just now. Of course, if you were in any danger, I could and would, but you really are better, dear, whether you can see it or not. I am a doctor, dear, and I know you are gaining flesh and color. Your appetite is better. I feel really much easier about you. I don't weigh a bit more," I said, "nor as much as my appetite may be better in the evening when you are here, but it is worse in the morning when you are away." "Bless her little heart," said he, with a big hug. "She shall be as sick as she pleases. But now let's improve the shining hours by going to sleep and talking about it in the morning. And you won't go away?" I asked gloomily. "Why, how can I, dear? It is only 3 weeks more, and then we will take a nice little trip of a few days while Jenny is getting the house ready." "Really, dear, you are better." "Better in body, perhaps," I began, and stopped short, for he sat up straight and looked at me with such a stern, reproachful look that I could not say another word. "My darling," he said, "I beg of you, for my sake, and for our child's sake, as well as for your own, that you will never, for one instant, let that idea enter your mind. There is nothing so dangerous, so fascinating to a temperament like yours. It is a false and foolish fancy. Can you not trust me as a physician when I tell you so?" So, of course, I said no more on that score, and went to sleep before long. He thought I was asleep first, but I wasn't. I lay there for hours, trying to decide whether that front pattern and the back pattern really did move together or separately. On a pattern like this, by daylight, there is lack of sequence, a deep defiance of law that is a constant irritant to a normal mind. The color is hideous enough and unreliable enough, infuriating enough, but the pattern is torturing. You think you have mastered it, but just as you get well underway in following, it turns a back somersault, and there you are. It slaps you in the face, knocks you down, and tramples upon you. It is like a bad dream. The outside pattern is florid arabesque, reminding one of a fungus. If you can imagine a toadstool in joints, an interminable string of toadstools, budding and sprouting in endless convulsions, why, that is something like it. That is, sometimes. There is one marked peculiarity about this paper, a thing nobody seems to notice but myself, and that is that it changes as the light changes. When the sun shoots in through the east window, I always watch for that first long straight ray. It changes so quickly that I never can quite believe it. That is why I watch it always. By moonlight, the moon shines in all night. When there is a moon, I wouldn't know if it was the same paper. At night, in any kind of light, in twilight, candlelight, lamplight, and worst of all, by moonlight, it becomes bars, the outside pattern, I mean, and the woman behind it is as plain as can be.